Alright, so in just 30 minutes, I'm going to show you how to make a Ckay type beat on FL Studio. This video is taken from a complete beginner perspective into transforming a simple basic rhythm that sounds like this. Doom ta, doom, doom ta, doom ta, doom, doom ta. Into a masterclass Afrobeat production that will sound like this. So at the end of this video, you'll be confident in making chord progression, making melodies, drum sequencing, arranging your patterns into a song, and mixing and mastering. So when the timer hits 0, you'll be able to make an Afrobeat that sounds like this. Alright, that's enough of an intro. Let's jump right in. Alright, to begin with, I'll adjust our BPM to 104. And we'll be using a percussive approach as the foundation to write our melody. What I mean by that is, we are going to toggle between notes like the way a drummer creates a drum groove with the kick, snare and then hi-hats. The secret here is that we are toggling between a relatively low and higher frequency. If you have a MIDI keyboard, this is basically what I am doing. You don't even have to know how to play the keys. Well, if you want to use not having a MIDI keyboard as an excuse, this is an alternative. You can basically use your computer keyboard as a MIDI controller. Make sure the typing keyboard icon is selected first. Now we need a chord progression for the rhythm to ride along with, because chords are the foundation of all song. Our progression for today is 1-4-2-5 in the major key of C. Alright, if you don't know why these chords generally work together in the progression, you can watch my earlier tutorials on mastering chord harmony, how to make chord progression, and the relationship between chords in a scale, that's chord family. I'll leave a link to the videos in the description below. We can add some notes at the close of the 8th and 4th bar for variation so that the melody don't get repetitive and boring. Now that we have a nice melody on the low end, let's add chords on top to complement it and make it a lot more fuller. Alright, to create some dynamics, I'll take out some notes to have a form of tension and release. Same procedure goes for the other chords in the progression, and we can chop some notes to add rolls for variation. With the melody done, let's find a plug sound that would sound good with the vibe. I'll be using the 23 Celesta from Analog Lab 5. I'll clone that and layer with this Kalimba preset. This sounds a lot more brighter to add some shines to the higher frequencies. Let's clone that again. Now the idea here is that I like the mid-range of the 23 Celesta preset, but the low end is too deep and it will clash with my bass. So I prefer the low end of the Kalimba instead. With this done, we can level them out to have a perfect blend between the sounds. But I'll render it as audio clip because of my PC performance and capabilities. So to render, I'm the selected channel, do Alt+R. Now from here we can add another layer to act as a texture. I'll be using a synth from Omnisphere. So basically we follow the baseline of our progression and create this simple groove. I'll render it as audio clip and reverse it. Now I'll chop it into bars. And because it is a reverse sound, the beginning becomes the end, so we need to rearrange it to flip it back. Next up, let's do part from Omnisphere again. We need to add some form of atmospheric feel to the track to give it that chill vibe. By the way, the preset for the part is Distance Memory. Now we can go back into Omnisphere again and add a lead melody. From here, I'll duplicate the guitar melody and change the pitch of the duplicated track to create some form of harmony. From here, let's add a guitar one shot to accent the melody. You may think I'm adding too many elements, but these are all settled to make the song arrangement more interesting and to have a lot to work with when you go into song arrangements. Now we can add some log drums to accent the percussive groove we did at the beginning. Next up, let's do a vocal sample. I'm just reversing it to act as a rising effect to keep the loop connected and interesting. So lastly, for the melodic section is a part from Expand 2. Preset is Heavenly Bell part. This part will play the chord progression and I'll layer it with the chorus to make it a lot more fuller. So far, this is the first insert effect that I'm using, but everything sounds really cool just by balancing the faders. So let's just create a swelling pad effect with the sidechain preset from Grossbeat. Well, if I play all the melody together, it will sound muddy. So let's just play a selected few, and from there we can add our drums. With the drums, always don't forget to add your swing. Well, let's begin with a 4-step kick pattern. This is a common bounce in Afrobeat, but we are going to take out the strong beat. This is why it is important to understand silence in music, when to play and when not to play to create a unique dynamics. So typically when this happens, you just have to turn off the use loop point. Well, from here I'm just going to lay the drums real quick. So when selecting percussions, just pick percussions that complement the groove and spread across different frequency range. Like the high frequencies, you may need hi-hats, cymbals, shakers, or pegs with a lot of reverb. And on the mid-range, you may need congas, bongos, snare, rim shot. And for the low end, you may need deep toms, congas, kick, among others. Well, the kick is low because I'll render this pattern as a peck loop. I'll just gain stage it. Basically adjust the levels of individual elements. So this is basically our drum groove. And then the kick will be our ghost kick. So you need to pan some element for space. Now I can really add hard drum grooves to make it a lot more fuller. So we do some conga, more percussions. Now from here we just listen and compare the drums with and without the peck loop. This sounds okay, but we are missing out on depth and it doesn't sound full enough. So by layering with the percussion, you get the rich Afrobeat sound. Well, this is one way among many ways you can make your Afrobeat drums sound a lot more fuller. Now let's make a bass line. With Afrobeat bass line pattern, you either make a smooth, deep or rhythmic bass line. But in all, just make a bass line that complements the chord progression and drum groove. We'll be using a stock bass from Harmless. Let's start with the root note, but you can still find a way to use the percussive approach we discussed earlier to write your bass line. So this is the simple bass line that we have created. So in here we have created a space for the bass to interact with the drums. If you listen closely. And with the melody too, it sounds good together. So from here, I just want a simple bass for the verse. Alright, so this will work. Now we can just play the pattern by channel and arrange this pattern into a song. So basic song arrangement section are subdivided into intro, verse, bridge, outro among others. And each subdivision can take up to about 8 bars when you are doing your arrangement before it switches up. So let's begin with the intro. With that, we keep it simple. And with the verse, we take out most of the percussions. So the simple bass for the verse comes in. And then the next 16 bars will be our chorus. So the general focus here is to keep the structure dynamic. That's why we added and removed elements throughout the track to keep the arrangement interesting. Now we are going to use transition between sections to introduce other segments of the beat. So we will be using rises, textures, crashes, drum fills, impact to make the arrangement more interesting. so this sounds good. So we will repeat same for the next half and probably end the way we began. But I'd like to give the instrumental a break and then the energy builds up again. Alright, so on the master fader, right click and create an automation. Just copy the value and the last 4 bars, I'll paste it there and create a fade out effect. Alright, so next up we mix the beats to make it sound professional. I recommend you listen to the beats back to back to know what to do exactly. We have already done the initial part, like routing the individual elements into a mixer track and then controlling the levels of individual elements, that's gain staging. Now it's time to add some effect. I'll start with the melody. I'll throw Renaissance bass on the plug sounds to enhance the low harmonics. So with the low end of the plug enhance, it will clash with the bass, so I'll surgically use an EQ to cut the low frequencies of the plug. So I'll just insert guitar rec 6 on the electric guitar. Now we can do doubler 2 on the harmonic guitar. I'll just take down the main centered sound, activate the octave to detune it and then pitch it up. And also the sound has been panned both left and right. Now we have this, it's audible enough. But I don't really like the resonance that comes with the guitar. So we just use the EQ sweeping technique to detect and carve out that frequency. Let's just do reverb on the one shot to make it a lot more bigger. And a delay. Maybe a panomatic on the swirling pad for movement. So for the bass, let's just distort it. Now we can do some reverb on the vocal. And then an EQ with a bandpass filter. So for the drums, the levels are all good. I'm just going to create a drum bass in order to add reverb for a little shining sparkler at the top ends. So when you are using reverb as a send effect, turn down the dry knob to 0 and then the wet all the way up. I'll add fruity send to send the sound to the reverb. So the trick here is that we put an EQ before the reverb on the inserted channel. The order in which you arrange your plugins matters a lot. So I'm basically cutting all the low ends, so the reverb will only affect the frequency section we allow to pass through the reverb. Now you have your clean shining top end on the drums. You can now compare with and without the reverb. So now on the master bass, let's saturate the color of the sound with satin 2. And now we can add Ozone 9 stereo imager to enhance the stereo width of the beat. We generally want to make it sound bigger than it seems, so you just pay attention to this section. We are going to use the enhance space preset. Now you see that it sounds a way more bigger. And lastly, we use a fruity multi-band compressor with the mastering 2.4 dB, and then we raise the gain. So I'll just play the final product of what we've done and then I'll sign out.